So in this video, I'm going to tell you the real truth that nobody tells you about the real estate wholesaling business. No agenda. I'm just going to give it to you straight. And I'm going to tell you specifically all the bad stuff, all the dirty stuff. And the reason for that is that I want you to be prepared. Because if you come into this industry, and I paint this in very rosy picture of what it's going to take in order for you to be successful, and I paint this movie of unicorns and rainbows, the minute you hit an obstacle, guess what you're going to do? You're going to run for the hills, because you're going to be like, oh, nobody told me it was going to be like this. But if I tell you the way it is, now when you get that obstacle in front of you, you'll be okay. You'll at least say, oh, remember that guy Chico told me about that. And that's what this video is about. So let's get right down to it. The real estate wholesaling business, number one, above and beyond anything that anybody tells you, is a sales endeavor. If you are in any way incapable, if you are in any way completely opposed to you spending large amounts of time on the phone with other human beings, this business is not going to be for you. This is a completely people business. Yes, there's a lot of technology that we can use. There's a lot of things that we can do in our business to automate and systemize and everything else. But at the end of the day, you cannot get away from the human element. And this is in all facets of the business. It's, when you're talking with property owners, when you're talking with buyers, when you're dealing with title agencies, when you eventually decided, oh, I want to grow, so I want to hire other team members to help me, and now you're dealing with those other humans. There's no way around it. Now, specifically, in order for you to have the best chance of success in the real estate business, you need to learn how to sell. You need to learn how to effectively communicate with other humans so that now you can get them to do what you want them to do. It's for their own good, but in the end, you got to be persuasive enough. So if you are not able to piece 2 or 3 words together, if you sound horrible over the phone, if you sound half dead, you're going to have an obstacle here in front of you that you're not going to be able to overcome. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're an nincompoop, when it comes to talking with sellers, that all hope is lost. Far from it. You can learn. I used to be an nincompoop, and now I'm half a nincompoop. I took a lot of training and read a lot of books on sales and persuasion and how to communicate effectively. It took a lot of work, but I'm here. I'm talking to you. And so that is one of the most fundamental things that you have to get into your head, and you have to then make it a priority that every single, especially in the beginning, every single day, every single week, every single month, you are honing that craft. You are studying. You are practicing with other investors and other people in the industry, and you are doing everything you can to continue to get better. Because if you don't, everything falls apart. Because it doesn't matter how great of a lead generation system you put in place, and you have these amazing leads coming to you, again, if you can't talk to these people, you're dead. So it's a sales endeavor. The next thing is that although everyone says that there is no money down real estate, what they really mean is that you don't have to put a deposit on the contract. You can put $500 or $100 and you don't have to close on the property. But in terms of operating this real estate wholesaling business, if you don't have any money at all, and by that I mean you don't have any, I'm not talking about money to pay a mentor, to buy a course, none of that. I'm talking about money for marketing, money to get the phone to ring. If you don't have money available for marketing, you're going to have a very difficult uphill battle. And the reason for that is that if you don't have the cash, then you're forced to do things that you're going to hate. You're going to be forced to spend hours upon hours on the phone cold calling and talking to people who do not want to hear from you, who want to figure out how the hell you got their phone number, and in the end, they are pissed off human beings. And we already have a hard time dealing with okay human beings, but if they're pissed off, you're gonna have a very difficult time. And again, those strategies do work. People have success with them. But it's only a few people here or there, and it's only those that can withstand the pain and suffering associated with a lot of that manual labor sort of endeavor. You know, another one is you get in your car and you drive around, driving around neighborhoods and looking for dilapidated houses. That's another strategy. But again, all that stuff, and I've tried it, it eats away at your soul. That's my opinion. I remember when I first started as a real estate wholesaler, and I was really struggling. I was doing all that manual work, and I didn't have the money. I was struggling because of the exact same thing I'm telling you. And for whatever reason, Discover Card sent me a credit card with an $8,000 balance. And I was like, oh, wow, they must not have seen my credit. But I made a decision at that time that changed the trajectory of everything. I said, I'm gonna take this $8,000 and I'm gonna go ahead and bet it all on direct mail. And I'm gonna go ahead and spend it all in marketing to generate as many leads as I can, to speak to as many people as I could, so then that way I would have a chance of putting deals together. And in the end, it worked out for me. And so you have to then decide what you're gonna do with regards to marketing. And knowing that if you are strapped for cash, you should figure out a way to find some. Either you cut your expenses, you get a credit card. Now, some of you might say, well, I'm a little bit gun shy about putting money at risk. If you feel that way, then you shouldn't get into this business anyway. Because this business is like any other business. It's an entrepreneurial endeavor that requires risk and uncertainty for you to be able to deal with those. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's really not going to be the business for you. Now, the next thing is understanding that it's going to take you a lot longer to get a deal done than you realize. A lot of times I get people that come in and say, I have trainings and different courses and to help real estate investors, and they come in and they're like, oh, can I get a deal done in 30 days? And my answer is always no. And if you're joining this program because you want to get a deal done in 30 days, or you need to get a deal done in 30 days, you need to fix your situation, whatever you have going on financially, and then come back, because you're going to need more time. Especially nowadays, it's different than what it was when I was first in the business. There's more competitive. There's more people in the business. It doesn't mean that there's not opportunity, but the competition is higher now. So you have to then level up your game. As I mentioned, you got to get better on the phone. All these things. When I first started in wholesaling, we were doing direct mail, as an example. We would mail out 1,000 postcards. And nobody back then was doing direct mail. And we would get 110 people that would leave messages for us. And that's unheard of now. If you get half of 1%, you're lucky. Back then, we thought that was normal. In fact, back then we didn't even have a sales CRM, a system where we can take and have all those leads come in. Our CRM was, I had a guy that would come in, and I knew the calls would hit on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and he would come in on those days. And as soon as the mailman started putting the cards out, you knew it, because the calls just started to come in, one after the other. You couldn't even handle the volume, even if you wanted to. So we set up a system where it's a 24-hour recorded message. People would listen to that message and then would go ahead and leave a message. And I had a guy that would come in, and he would literally sit with a notebook for hours and transcribe the messages. That's all he would do. And we had this notebook filled with like pages and pages of just messages of people reaching out, wanting to get an offer on their property. And then we would have another guy pick that notebook up, and then that was our CRM. That was a very sophisticated way of handling all these leads. It's not the same now. And so there are channels that will provide you an excess of leads. We use, for example, online marketing, which enables us just to really generate a tremendous amount of leads and just turn up the volume whenever we want to do that. But even then, right, it's just a lot more things in the marketplace going on with regards to wholesaling and competition. And so it's going to take longer to get a deal because of that, and because it's going to require you to have a higher level of competence and ability in order for you to get deals done. The next thing is that it is a business of lots of ups and downs. Lots of ups and downs because you're dealing with humans. And with humans, there's always ups and downs, right? You have dealing with personalities of people and the good and the bad. You have months where you're riding high. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I am the wholesaling stud. And then other months where you're like, I feel like crap because deals are not coming, nothing's closing, etc. There's also, deals go south all the time. Right now we have a deal that has been pending for a while. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll close it and we'll make $35,000, but the thing's been lingering around forever. And what if it doesn't close? Now we lose $35,000 in potential revenue that, hey, it would have been nice to have. And so you're always dealing with that. And so you have to be okay with that there's going to be ups and downs. You're going to be sitting high one day because you put a deal on the contract, but then in the next week you're like down in the dumps. Why? Because you couldn't sell the deal. It was a really crappy house. Seller didn't tell you all the information. And in the end, now you're like back to square one. It is what it is. The other thing to keep in mind is that it's not one thing that makes the difference. It's the combination of things that make the difference. And by that I mean that, in our business, in the wholesaling business, a lot of people are always looking for that one thing. Man, if I only had the right marketing in place, if I only had the right sales script, if I only had this or that, then everything would change. And you hear that, you also are bombarded with messages like that. Oh, this is the only thing you're missing. The fact is that it's never one thing. It's always the combination of things that make the difference. In order for you to be a successful wholesaler, you have to know how to speak with sellers well. You need to know how to speak with buyers as well. You need to know the ins and outs of transaction coordination so that now as you are getting that transaction that you put together to the closing table, that you're able to navigate all the variety of different problems that come up during the whole process. You need to have your marketing down right. You need to have the right paperwork. All those things have to come together appropriately in the right way. Otherwise, then you're not going to make it. Either you might get deals, but you never will close them. And then you'll sit around wondering, I'm missing this one thing here or there and I can't figure it out. And it's just that it's the totality of everything in place in the right way that makes a difference. And the last, but certainly not least, is that as with any endeavor, if you've never owned a business before, if you're starting off from scratch, you've never done any sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, then you as the person are incapable of the things that are required in order for success. By that, I'll use a quote from one of my mentors. He says that your level of personal development has to raise to the appropriate level of success that you want. By that I mean that you have to have the discipline in place in order to do the daily things that are required in the business, and so that now you can be successful. You have to have the persistence, the mental fortitude, all those things, right? You as a person, you may have to, stop hanging out with friends because either they're negative mindset, or maybe you just are not going to have the time because now you have to give this thing here more time. You have to give up your Netflix and you have to give up all these things. And so you have to become a different person altogether in order to be able to make this business work. And so you have to leave the old person behind. And a lot of times people don't realize that. And we have people coming into our training programs all the time where just listening to them, I understand exactly all the obstacles, but I can see that they're going to have a difficult time. And if they're struggling with a problem, I had recently a phone call with somebody, and as I was listening to them, and they were telling me their issue and why they couldn't get this business to work. And I was telling them what they should do, but I was sensing that resistance from them. In the end, I just backed off, realizing that they're going to be struggling for a good while, just because they're not ready for that. And it is what it is. A great book for this, I'm going to recommend a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. This is the book that I'm studying intimately right now because it talks about your belief system. And at the end of the day, that one needs to change. The belief system around the things that you can do, your capabilities, and the vision that you have for your future. Because all of that is going to be so critically important for you to become all these obstacles that I just laid out. So then that way you could have the success that you want in the wholesaling business.